This is essentially a thumbnail, and it's a compositional thumbnail, but the reality is most thumbnails are just for you, and they're very, very small, right? And they basically are just done in about 30 seconds, and it gives you the general gist of what your composition is going to be, right? So that's a traditional thumbnail, but that's not exactly what we're going to do today, okay? That thumbnail tells me where I'm going to cut off. I can change the format of that. I can give it a little bit of extra space, but it tells me quite a bit, okay? That's a thumbnail. Small, takes very little time. What we're gonna do is a compositional thumbnail, okay? And what I've got here is called a viewfinder. I want you to make a viewfinder for homework, okay? And what is this viewfinder? It's just stiff cardboard, and you can use a cereal box. You can use the back of your drawing board, that cardboard there, or just a box. It's fine. You can also use a piece of mat board. And this one is going to measure 4 by 5.5. That's a great size. So 4 by 5.5. Okay? All right. Now, when you have a viewfinder, you're going to notice that you can do a bunch of things with that viewfinder. You can draw that format really quickly. And that is great. And I can cut this, if I want, into the rule of thirds, just as a notation to myself. And it's fairly loose, right? Before I even begin, all right? I can use this, but this is actually for sighting, okay? Which are just little strings. You don't have to do that. Just the hole is what I want, and I want something to grab onto, okay? Now, they've made this like this as just L's in case they want to make it bigger or smaller, but you can actually make yours just fixed. What's the measurement of that? 4 by 5.5. Now, I can change the format of this very easily. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill my entire page with these thumbnails. I'm going to walk around the room and I'm going to find various things that allow me some kind of understanding of the composition that I'm going to use. And you're going to notice that I'm basically making a really, really small version of organizational line. And you can change this and adjust it, and it shouldn't take really any longer than 5 minutes. So from here, what I do is I incorporate that organizational line, and I say, and I'm using a colored pencil here. You can use a colored pencil if you elect to. You can use a charcoal pencil, or you can use your regular pencil if you want. And that's good for this scale, right? We use the appropriate materials for the scale. That hits about here. And I'm using transparency here to get this correct. And I'll show you why in just a sec. It's about here. It's going to go disproportionately off the edge here. I'm drawing all of my ellipses. Oh, screwed that up. That's how I'm able to get it correctly. I don't ever want you guys to stop doing that organizational line, because you will always get your subject matter correct in terms of placement and scale, and anything that is wrong you'll be able to see and modify very, very quickly. That's the table line. And then from here, what I want you to do is I want you to do a real quick firming up of that line. So once it's correct, I will, on top of all of that, redraw it in what we know of as a, what kind of line?
Contour.
What? Contour, exactly. So I'm using all of that organizational line in order to situate that, making any modifications as I go. And this is the first step in making a long-term drawing. I'll show you how it's done in just a sec. Once I've completed that, ooh, screwed it up. And how long did I say this shouldn't take any longer than
5 minutes.
5 minutes. I want you to notice how I set this up. Ooh, I've got a kissing edge. Ooh, no me gusta. Maybe we'll elongate that. I'm following all those rules. Making any of those modifications. Still drawing transparently, but for that contour I don't need to. I'm just firming everything up. That make sense? Okay. Pretty good composition, huh? Feel good about that? Okay. Why is it important? Well, because I made a grid, I can check my work. I can say, oh, I need how many blocks do I need? How many in the rule of thirds? 9. So, a straight line here. Straight line here. Once I've gotten that complete, what I can do is if I've got a longer term drawing, I can just take my other sheet of paper, I can divide it into 9 segments, and I know exactly what to put in every bit of grid. And then just transfer it out. So it kills a lot of the labor that you generally have to do. But you need to make sure that your composition works before you commit to it, right? And I generally like to get it fairly correct before I transfer that out. But that took me, what, 3 minutes, right? So I want you to move around the room. I want you to do that as many times as you can, filling the entirety of just simply one sheet of paper. Sound good? You will have to probably set up some still lifes, so there are a bunch of little tables, right? So I want you to use 3 to 5 objects or find a composition that already exists. I'm not crazy about that because it doesn't use stacking, but there are some ones around the room. Just feel free to move them to situate your composition in a better way. Also, use vantage point. You can sit down and look up at something. Remember, this is just an exercise, so you're not actually committing to these for a long period of time. Any questions? Go ahead and stop.